The days grew colder, but Luca and Pia's bond warmed with each passing moment. They fell into an unspoken understanding, sharing their vulnerabilities in a way neither of them had dared with anyone else. Pia's photos became softer, more intimate, as if her camera had learned to see the world through her heart rather than her eyes. Luca's music, in turn, carried a new depth, each note soaked in the quiet strength of their connection. But life, as it often does, had its own rhythm, a rhythm neither of them could control. One evening, Pia sat in her dimly lit apartment, editing photos from their last outing. The images on her screen told a story of laughter, stolen glances, and a closeness she hadn't realized was so palpable. Her fingers paused on the keyboard as she studied an image of Luca, his guitar in hand, the soft glow of golden hour light painting him like a dream. The knock at her door startled her. When she opened it, she found Luca standing there, his face a mix of frustration and defeat. His guitar case dangled loosely in his grip, its usually confident weight seeming like a burden. "Luca, what's wrong?" He stepped inside without a word, setting the case down and pacing the room. Pia watched him, her concern mounting. Finally, he stopped and faced her, his expression dark. "It's gone." "What's gone?" "The gig." His voice cracked with admission. "The one I was supposed to play next month in Florence. They pulled me from the lineup. Said they're going in a different direction." Pia's heart sank. She knew how much Luca had been looking forward to that opportunity. It wasn't just a gig. It was a chance for him to prove himself, to push his music to a wider audience. "I'm so sorry," she said softly, reaching out to touch his arm. He pulled away, running a hand through his hair. "I thought this was it, Pia. My break. And now it's nothing." "It's not nothing," she insisted. "You're still incredible. One cancelled gig doesn't change that." Luca looked at her, his eyes filled with doubt. "Doesn't it? Maybe I'm just fooling myself, thinking I can make something out of this." "Don't say that." Pia's voice was firm. "You have a gift, Luca. One gig doesn't define you." He didn't respond, his silence cutting deeper than any words could. The next few days were strained. Luca withdrew, spending hours alone with his guitar but playing little. Pia tried to give him space, but it hurt to see him retreat into himself. She threw herself into her work, capturing moments of the city that mirrored her own turmoil. Fractured reflections in puddles, empty benches, and blurred figures moving through the rain. One evening, as she developed a particularly striking photo in her makeshift darkroom, she realized something. Luca's absence in her work was deafening. Her photos had become incomplete without his presence, his music, his quiet strength. She found him on the rooftop of his apartment building, his guitar resting unused by his side. The city sprawled out before him, its lights blinking like distant stars. "You've been avoiding me," Pia said, stepping closer. Luca glanced at her but didn't respond. "Luca, talk to me." "What's there to say?" he muttered. "I'm a failure, Pia, and I'm dragging you down with me." Her chest tightened at his words. "You're not a failure, and you're not dragging me down. You are the one who taught me to stop running, to see the beauty in everything, even the broken parts." Luca finally looked at her, his eyes filled with a mix of frustration and longing. What if I don't have it in me to keep going? Pia stepped closer, placing a hand on his cheek. Then I'll remind you, every day if I have to. For a moment, he leaned into her touch, his walls cracking just enough to let her in. But then he pulled away, standing abruptly. I need time, Pia, he said, his voice heavy with finality. Time to figure out if I can still do this, if I can still be me. She wanted to argue, to tell him he didn't have to face this alone. But she saw the resolve in his eyes and knew he needed this. Okay, she said softly, but don't shut me out completely. I won't, Luca promised, though his voice wavered. As he walked away, Pia felt the weight of his absence settle around her like a fog. She stayed on the rooftop long after he left, the city's lights blurring through her tears. She didn't know how their story would end, but she clung to the hope that their unfinished melody would find its harmony once more.